Rosa Kim from Suffolk University Law School in Boston, and this video is about a short introduction to the U.S. legal system. There are three basic guiding principles to understanding the U.S. legal system, and they are the separation of powers concept, federalism, and stare decisis and precedent. In terms of separation of powers, we have three branches of government: the legislative, the executive, and judicial branches that are responsible for enacting law, interpreting law, and regulating law. Let's first talk about the separation of powers in terms of the checks and balances inherent in that system. These three branches are co-equal, so no one branch is more powerful than the others. They serve different purposes. As I said, the legislative branch is responsible for enacting laws. The executive branch is responsible for regulating and enforcing them. And the judicial branch is responsible for interpreting law. And by interpreting law, it also makes case law. Let's talk about the legislative branch to begin. Our Congress has two chambers, the Senate and the House of Representatives. We have a system of 2 senators from each state for a total of 100. And then we have a total of 435 representatives in the House of Representatives. The number from each state depends on the population density of that state. We have 2 major political parties, which are the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. These are the 2 dominant parties in our political system and who are dominant in Congress. The executive branch is occupied by the president, who is elected, along with the vice president. We do not have a prime minister in the U.S. system. We have departments under the president, within the executive branch, and the head of those departments are called secretaries, not ministers, as in some other systems. Here are some examples. And we have a federal attorney general who is the head of enforcing federal laws. Finally, the judicial branch. We have the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court of the United States, which is composed of 9 members, nominated by the president, confirmed by the Senate. They have life tenure, and over time, we see the swings, the political swings that are manifested in the composition of the Supreme Court based on the president who nominates the members. Now on to the second basic principle of law under the U.S. system, and that is the federalism, which is established by our Constitution. So the U.S. Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, includes federal laws enacted pursuant to it and treaties entered into it by the U.S. government. The concept of federalism is one that really needs to be understood to understand law in the United States. So we do have a system of dual sovereignties. There are parallel systems between federal and state. We have one federal system and 50 individual state systems. Each system has particular powers to make certain laws in different areas. Some powers are concurrent between the 2 systems, and other powers are unique to each system. Now, the third concept that's super important to understand the law in the U.S. is stare decisis and precedent. So stare decisis, meaning let the decision stand, means that our legal system follows precedent, which is an earlier court decision that binds or guides a later court in deciding the same or similar issue based on the same or similar facts. Stare decisis is a doctrine that requires a court to follow precedent of that court, which is a horizontal relationship, or the precedent of a higher court in the same jurisdiction, which is a vertical relationship. This is critical because it means that when you are researching a particular legal issue or a law, you have to look to the case law that has been decided along those issues to see and to predict how a problem will be decided in the future. So stare decisis provides an important measure of predictability to legal opinions and how legal issues will be adjudicated by the court. Now, precedential systems do not necessarily mean that precedent is never overruled. In fact, we have two really important examples of laws that have been overruled, and by so doing, it exemplifies that law is still an evolving, fluid phenomenon. It is not stagnant, despite the implication of precedential law. So two important examples. We have the Plessy v. Ferguson case, which established a separate but equal rule of law between white and black individuals within the United States. We have the later decision of Brown versus the Board of Education, in which the Supreme Court banned segregation based on this idea of separate but equal. And on the bottom you see a poster referencing the Roe v. Wade decision, which of course was decided in 1973, making the ban on abortion illegal. And then the Dobbs decision of 2022, basically repealing the earlier Supreme Court ruling. So law evolves over time. Precedent is and can be overruled. It is typically difficult to overrule precedent, but we see that it has happened throughout history and is an important aspect of our legal system. Now, what is the significance of case law? Well, by case law we mean judicially created law that is interpreting, applying either common law or statutory law. And it is a way to understand sometimes legal issues that are more nuanced or that are very specific to a particular set of facts. And the law that comes from judicially written opinions forms the basis of that area of the law. Some refer to it as filling the gap. If there's any gap in the law, the case law will fill that gap and clarify any ambiguities. Now, what is the role of judges in the U.S. system? Well, judges' jobs are to interpret and apply the law, whether it is common law through the cases or statutory law. Judges hear the facts but do not investigate the facts. They are not investigators of facts. The role of the jury, on the other hand, they are charged with findings of fact and rendering a verdict in a case. There's a constitutional right to a trial by jury in certain cases, and a jury usually is composed of 12 members, although there are different constitutions of juries depending on the jurisdiction. And there are different rules both at the federal level and state level regarding juries. So this sums up, in a very brief introduction, the legal system in the United States. Again, the three important concepts are separation of powers and the checks and balances system among the three branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial. And the concept of federalism, where we have dual sovereignties working in parallel fashion, federal and 50 separate state systems. And finally, we have stare decisis and precedent as being the basis of the way that our law is created and evolves over time. Thanks.